Good morning. Good morning. Java Delight will uplift you. Stay tuned. The show is about to begin. Grab your coffee. Stay tuned. This show is about to begin.
Good morning, Ilse. How is life in South Africa part of the world?
It is life. It is very complacent at the moment and stagnant. I cleaned my house this morning and I had a shower and I washed my hair and I saged the place because I woke up this morning and I just felt so, I don't want to say dark, but just down and very emotional. So I just had to take some me time and sage all this negative energy out of my house. So I did a deep cleanse and now I feel better. So it worked.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I just noticed, are your fingernails the same color as your hair today?
Yes, we always
look
go
at
black.
that.
We always go black.
Ready to rock out.
I don't have any other nail polish color. I only have black. I like black nail polish.
I think one time I polished my nails, and
hopefully black.
It was weird because when it felt to me like when I polished my nails that they felt different than when they don't have anything on it, and it felt kind of like I was like they couldn't breathe or something. I don't know. I have this thing, you know. I might use oil in certain parts of life, but I do not like having oil on my skin. I don't like having lotion on my skin. It like,
but I have to force myself to do it.
Yeah, it makes me feel like my skin can't breathe. So yeah, don't look at me for a Crisco party.
When I used to have false nails on and go every month or 2 months that they can put it on. So it's been about almost a year with no nails, and when they took it off, or when I took it off the last time, my nails also felt funny. It felt like something was missing because I've been wearing false nails for so long that my hands got used to it. It took me a couple of days to get used to not having anything on my nails. But I don't have strong nails, so I have to Q-Tex them. So I just file them very short, and then I do the black. Then I don't have to worry about it. They don't break then and stuff because I do my own dishes and I don't have a dishwasher, so they break easily.
I have a dishwasher, but I never use it because I'm like one person cooking for myself, and I'm like,
don't you find it difficult to just make food for one person as well?
No, I not necessarily. I don't cook all the time. Let's put it that way. So I have learned to cook some things so that it's just for me. But if it comes down to cooking like bigger things or like soup or something, I usually make 8 quarts of it, and then I have to freeze a lot. Excuse me.
And then you eat the whole winter.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just trying to balance this light here. Sorry. I moved everything and now everything is falling over because that little space that I had, there was another coffee table here that was so bulky that and then because the roof slants, you have to bend over or bend to walk in, and every time I bend over, I bump my head against the thing, and I'm like, forgot to bend down, not bend over, bend down. I forgot to bend down when I walk through, and then I hit my head every time. So I try to move everything around so it's more comfortable, and now my light keeps falling over. And I'm like, I do not have the energy for this light today. I'm going to have to sit like this the whole time.
Oh, that's amazing.
Up close and personal.
I just noticed what Jess was saying. She hasn't cooked for one person in like over 20 years. That's Jess cooks for an army, as I understand it. And and that's not a small army. She's like a 4-star general, and she cooks for like 18,000 people, of which 17,999 are our own kids.
We were a family of 4. I think in my previous time, I also used to cook for an army because I cannot make small portions of food. When I make food, I always make so much. There's always so much left. Always. I'm so scared somebody's going to go hungry, so I make extra.
Yeah, I definitely try to make sure that when I do cook, I tend to cook a lot. I mean, I just am like anticipating somebody's going to come over, but I never invite anybody over, so nobody ever comes. I don't know how that works, but it does.
Maybe you should invite them, eh? You can't just cook for them and expect them to pitch up. So maybe just shoot them a text and say, dudes, I cooked for you. Come eat.
Yeah, exactly.
Nobody ever says no for a free meal that I can guarantee.
Oh, man. So I think, hey, you want to go through and say good morning to everybody that's on or watching us.
I see Uncle morning. Bob is first. I spoke to Brandon yesterday briefly. He is still ill and not feeling well and driving back. So I don't think he'll be joining us for the rest of the week. I think he'll only see us on Monday. But I think he needs the rest. It's the universe way of just forcing you to look after yourself if you don't want to listen. So I think he needs the rest.
Yeah, and I actually did speak with him for a while last night, and he was driving, and I think he's trying to get back to Cleveland today so that he could stop by and talk to his doctor tomorrow. I'm pretty sure that's what his schedule is trying to be. He's still getting through the food poisoning or whatever else that may have triggered. So he's actually trying to avoid farting because he's not exactly sure what's going to come out. So
it's like a lucky packet.
So he doesn't want it to be a shark.
And Ryan comes here with food again. Oh, French omelette in a sautéed tomato. I do not know how to pronounce that word or what it is. What is
Chipotle?
What is that?
Chipotle is kind of a smoked, smoky flavored salsa that you add to it's kind of a Mexican kind of a thing, but it's a smoky flavored hot salsa.
He first tells us what he's having for breakfast, and then he goes, "Oh, sorry, I mean morning." Jessica says she's not inviting. What does she say? I'm not inviting anyone officially anymore. I'm not gonna say, look, my door's open whenever. No more stress for me. It's easier because sometimes the universe just doesn't want to work together, and things just. Jessica says in the private that it's a pepper. Ooh, I want to taste that.
Okay, wait a second. Okay, with that, we're going to have to bring Jess in to help explain what this is. I could have sworn it meant it was smoky.
I saw something that I also wanted to explain to me. So you're more than welcome to bring her on. I'm doing some research.
There's Jess. She is looking through her spring-colored glasses, and everything is looking
Filters out
amazing
the
and growing.
bullshit.
Listen, it's a metaphor. It's a metaphor because when you don't see the kind of world that's around you that you want and things aren't maybe going your way, you do have the ability to change how you see things. And so, it's more than that, but I'm going with that for the moment for the viewing audience.
Yeah, I freaked my girlfriend out the other day. I was looking at her like this, and she's like, "Don't do that. Your eyes look really weird when you do that." And I was like, "But I'm focusing on you."
Jess, I saw a TikTok. Yes, me and my TikToks. A lady that had a breakup with cheese. She's vegan and she stopped eating cheese, and then she made her own cheese.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Vegan cheese. How do you do that? Because it looked like cheese. She made mac and cheese.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it depends on what kind of cheese you're going to make. I mean, obviously, if you're talking about dairy cheese, the process is very similar no matter what kind of cheese you're making. You just have to let it ferment longer, depending on if you're making like a stinky cheese or whatever. But, with vegan cheese, it depends on what you're doing. So if you're doing like a cheese sauce, like you can make a delicious mac and cheese sauce straight from vegetables, and you just put nutritional yeast in it and stick it in the blender. It's not like easy, and it tastes just like nacho cheese. You would never know the difference. And
I'm gonna have to try that.
and then like I do so the ricotta cheese that I do for lasagna, I do either out of tofu or cashews. It depends. So I go back and forth between the recipes. And then the mozzarella cheese, you actually use tapioca starch, and you cook it on the stove, and it makes a stretchy cheese, just like mozzarella.
Oh, wow. I was baffled. I'm like, what? These people are making their own cheese?
I like to do now, like, I love to make charcuterie boards, and I love like the little olives and pickles and cheeses and stuff like that. And so I'll make like cheese balls all the time of like fresh herbs, and a lot of them are either, again, nut based or tapioca starch, depending on the texture that you want. But it all tastes like, it tastes no different to me than like, I don't know if you have them in South Africa, but Brett probably knows what I'm talking about. Like the alouette cheese, like the spreadable cheese. It's almost like a cream cheese thing.
We've got something similar to
it
that.
tastes just like that.
I have to try it. I'm going to definitely see if I can find a recipe and then try it, and then I'm gonna make mac and cheese, and I'm not gonna tell my children. I want to see if they if they realize, and then I'll tell them afterwards. Hopefully they're not watching the show.
That's it. You just sneak it in there.
No, and then
I was gonna tell you guys. You're talking about Brett was talking about being 4-star or whatever. Our elf that comes during Christmas likes to bring little things, and because we don't have enough clutter around the house, and the elf brought this and put this in our kitchen this last Christmas.
Oh, wow.
Look at that.
Yeah, so it sits on I had one of my kids bring it in. It sits on my windowsill now, and reminds us this is a good place to eat.
The food's delicious.
It is.
That's awesome. Well, the one thing I think that when I was with Bob last week, after an evening of adult beverages, Bob started getting hungry, which was very good. And what cracked me up about Bob when we were with him, I'm kind of getting ahead of the story since tomorrow's really Bob's day, but I'm going to give him shit today anyhow. Bob would go up to the bar, and he's ordering a drink, and then he looks in his wallet, and I'm like, Bob, your money's no good here. And he looks in his wallet, and he's like, good, because I don't have any. And then later in the evening, Bob's feeling hungry. I'm like, Bob, why don't you try this It was like a pork tenderloin sandwich. And he's like, what's that? I was like, just try it. It's good. So he gets up there and he's like, I want that pork tenderloin sandwich. And I said, Bob, do you want cheese on it? And he said, no. So this is how it ties into our cheese conversation.
Yeah, I knew Bob didn't like cheese. I knew he didn't like cheese because when he was supposed to come over, he was like, I don't eat cheese. And I was like, well, we don't either, like, so, when we do have, but I didn't know if it was like because you don't know with people, is it the cheese or is it like the flavor that you don't like? What is it that's the issue? So with us, I mean, the flavor is like cheese. So if you don't like the flavor of cheese, you're not going to like vegan cheese either. Like it just, it is what it is.
Yeah, but so Bob's up there, he's ordering this, and he's pulled out his wallet again, which I was like, Bob, don't worry. And guess what? He looked in his wallet and he's like, I don't got any money anyhow. So he kept pulling out his wallet and looking at it like, oh, no money in there this time. Oh, no money in there this time either. I was cracking up. Bob was absolutely hilarious. And we're going to give him massive amounts of shit tomorrow. So, Bob, be ready.
Hopefully, he's coming with some good news that he can spill because he's got us on the edge of our seats with the news for Miss Carly that he's not allowed to share. And I'm like, I just want to know. I am so nosy. I have to wait until whenever it gets released.
Bob is similar. I've realized how similar Bob and I are in that way, to where like if I know something, I have to keep like talking about the fact that I know something in order to stop myself from not telling what it is. Like and it pisses people off because they're like, really? You do nothing but talk about nothing. We know nothing what you're talking about right now. And you won't say anything, and it's horrible and mean, and we don't like you.
I do that when I buy my kids gifts before their birthdays. I like tell them from where I bought it till where I give it to them. I bought you the most beautiful gift, but you're not allowed to see it. You have to wait until your birthday. And I let them wait, but I tell them every day how beautiful it is.
Speaking of birthdays, my second oldest son is turning 16 this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Very exciting.
When
not
kids have birthdays, that's
another teenager.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then Marjean's birthday is next week. She's going to be 12. So I have 3 teenagers. Well, 2 teenagers and an adult, and then 3 kids. So Marjean, this is her last year. She's turning 12 in a couple weeks, and this is her. Then I'll have 4 older ones.
So you got a tweener, you got 3 teenagers and an adult.
No, so I have two younger kids, a tween, 2 teens, and an adult, and then Phil.
And then there's the other 7,627 that you haven't even mentioned yet.
They're in the basement that we don't have.
I've got the 20-year-old, the adult, and then I've got a teenager, and then I've got the toddler. So it's also one in every area. But I prefer it like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, for me, one is 86, one is 81.
They give you more.
I didn't talk about my parents. Let's talk about it.
Those are my kids that I got to take care of, and they're. I was telling Jess and Ilse earlier today. The 81-year-old, which is my mother, is probably one of the most challenging children that you'll ever run into in terms of things that come out of her mouth that upset other people. It's like, how did you not think it was going to bother somebody when you say those things? And she's like, I don't know. It wasn't me. Everybody's yelling at me, and everybody's, it's always my fault. And that's been her go-to for her whole life. It's always my fault. And I'm like, no, you said something that kind of tipped this off. I'm like, if my sister, my brother, my father, my brother's girlfriend and your other friends all say these things. What is the common denominator here, mother? Well, it's me, but I don't say anything. I'm like, okay, let's rethink this. And this is okay. So we'll go into something a little bit more serious, but we still got to say good morning to like Donnell and to
Lena,
Mike and to who
Ryan,
else is out there?
Bob,
and everybody else that's out there. Hi, Lena. Nice to see you all the way from
Lena,
Sweden
thank you
again.
so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much
so
for
much for your
joining.
compliment.
So my mom is always kind of like in a depressed state, right? She's been that way pretty much her whole life, though, you know, not always maybe this quite the same as now. So I said, you know, why don't you think about, she's like, life is just terrible. You know, everybody blames me for everything. I said, Mom, why don't you've got 81 years and you can choose to not go back to when you were 3 years old and afraid of your mother and hiding in your bed. I was like, that's your choice. You choose to do what you're doing. You choose to act today and then blame it on something that happened 75 years ago. I was like, she's like, but I don't know how to change. I said, Mom, I've given you tapes. I've given you all kinds of different things to help you to look at life a little bit differently, but you never even use those. And back in the day, she used to like to listen to Bob Proctor. So I said, okay, how about I get you some stuff from Bob Proctor? And she's like, well, you know, I'm more visual. So if it was a video, I'll do it. I said, okay, well, there's videos. So I can get videos on that. But then I said, you know, the first thing you need to do is learn to be grateful for many of the things that have happened in life. You've got 81 years. I want you to sit down and just write all the things that you can be grateful for in your life. And she's like, that's going to be a short list. I said, Mom,
That's
81
so
years.
sad.
You can't tell me that there's a short list of things that you can be grateful for and happy for in your life. I said, I want you to sit down and write at least 3 to 4 pages of things to be grateful for that then you can read every morning when you wake up. And as you start doing that, you will brighten your day every day when you start off. So she started writing and she got like a half a page, and then other things came up for her to focus on. And I'm going to be very interested in talking to her today to see how much further she's gotten along in her list of things to be grateful for, because oftentimes people that are depressed, they don't want to get undepressed. So when you give them an exercise to do to help them to look at life differently, they may make an initial feeble attempt so it looks like they're really trying, but they don't want to, because that means that they may actually have to be happy, which would be an experience that they don't want oftentimes, because they are so in tune with their identity of being depressed or the victim or whatever, that they want to stay there. They don't want to move out of that, because it's bringing them some things that are, you know, in the 6 human needs, what they want. There's certainty that they know how they're going to feel when they're depressed. That's something that they can hold on to and feel comfortable with.
But can you imagine unlearning 81 years of beliefs of the old systems and how things work? I think it's more difficult when you're that old, or when you're older than it is when you're younger and maybe have more to look forward in life.
I want to disagree because I believe it's simply a matter of choice. Because even you can even look at, people that are younger who have been presented with or experienced different circumstances. So say one person had really not had a whole lot of challenges and somebody else has had a ton of challenges. So age in my book makes no difference because of the fact that everybody's presented with different challenges in their lives and different levels of those challenges. So at any time, so it would be almost like saying, well, to say a 25-year-old, one hasn't had a lot of challenges and the other has, saying to the one that's had a lot of challenges, well, you've had a lot more challenges, so we'll just give you a pass. No, it's as simple as making a choice. And we complicate things as humans and going, well, because I'm older, because I've had more challenges, because I've been handed a raw deal, whatever it is, we have these excuses as to why we just can't make the choice. And to play off of what Brett was sharing too, sometimes people just don't want to do the work. We love as humans the idea of happiness, joy, success, and all of this stuff, but do we actually want to do the work to achieve those things? And the answer for a majority of humans is no. And it's sad and it's difficult for those of us that are helpers that are looking in going, what is wrong? Like, why are you just not making that choice? But we have to come to grips with the fact that it may not be their journey to get it. That may not be part of their thing why they're here.
I think that's maybe I actually, now that you mention it, 2 days ago I went to visit my daughter and we were sitting around the table where we do our podcast, and I asked her to ask my mom something because we don't talk to each other. We do not send each other messages. We do not hang out. We've got nothing to say to each other. And I actually asked my daughter just to send her a message because I was looking for some login details that she can ask my cousin. And she actually came back with such a snotty answer to my daughter, like, yeah, but your mom must thinks I'm dead, so let her do her own things. And I actually looked at the message and I thought that's so sad. You haven't seen me in how long. You do not care what I do. You do not worry about why I feel the way I feel. I didn't just wake up one day and decided, oh, I'm not going to talk to my mom. We had a good relationship when I allowed the abuse and allowed them to dictate my life. And as soon as I said, listen, yeah, this is where it stops, and I set my boundaries, I mean, they accepted me walking out of their lives. That day that I saw my brother as well, it was, nobody knows where you are and everything. And I'm like, bullshit. I tell live on Facebook and on YouTube, if anybody wants to find out what's going on with my life, they can go onto Facebook and see. I mean, it's not that nobody knows where I am and I just disappeared off the face of the earth. Is it now everybody's pretending that because I walked out of all the family relationships that I'm the problem? And I said to my daughter, in that message, you can actually see that she's not willing to change or take responsibility for why I am feeling the way I feel.
And I mean, the truth of it is that we can be addicted as humans to the payoff of drama. There's so Shiraz, that does Rewriting Reality show on the Breakthrough Show Network, he has a book called How to Rewrite Your Reality, and he looks at it from the perspective of different genres and how a huge majority of people are in the drama genre because there's actually a hormonal payoff that you get from the drama. So there's a lot of people that and I've been one to do this too, of going, I don't like the drama, but then I'm first to be like, what's going on? What's happening? Can I see out the window? Right. And so it really is like, it's cute to say, it's adorable to say, I don't like drama, but it's bullshit. Most of us as humans, we like we're little old cat ladies at the window, that's how we are. When I think sometimes you notice, like if you create those boundaries, if you say, I'm not going to do this anymore, that sometimes that makes people mad. that makes people fight back because then they're starting to go, you know, in the back of their mind and their subconscious, I'm not going to have anything to fight with here. You know, there's not going to be that drama going on. And so there's a pushback. Right.
Well, you know, like Lena says, you know, as we get older in life, I can see what to be grateful for and what life has given me. I think that's something that, again, it's really where your focus goes, your energy flows. And if you focus on those things, which, okay, when you're talking about things that are maybe depressing or were scary, you know, traumatic experiences, things along those in your life, that gets tied with emotions, right? Emotions at the time, but oftentimes the definition of the emotion is something that you place on it way later in life. I mean, there's words that my sister uses to describe things that happened to her when she was just a very young kid, like 1-2 years old, and she's talking about, you know, really serious terms, and I'm like, you didn't even know those terms when you were a kid, but you're saying that this is what it was. This is why you're so emotionally charged about it. Like, you place those words on it now. That's not, the event was the event. Your meaning, you have now placed over years, probably more and more emotion behind it, because you recreate these things in your mind and you use it oftentimes to justify why you act the way you do. My mother does that with her mother. Her mother, I actually do remember when I didn't see her mother actually try to do this to my grandfather, but I did see the tire tracks on the sidewalk where my grandmother like ran up on the curb with her car to try to run over my grandfather in front of our house. And so there was, you know, definite instability there. And there's some instability on that side of the family, actually, her mother's sister, things along those lines. But oftentimes, you know, even though there may be some genetic propensities for certain things, the expression of those is our choice.
Right. It doesn't matter. Like, there's something to be said for learned behavior. There's something to be said for what we observe and what we identify with, what we take on ourselves. I was saying to one person one day, like, it's funny how sometimes we'll have issues with our parents and we'll say, I'm not going to be like that when I grow up. And then one day we look in the mirror and we're looking at our parent, you know, and so there's something to be said for that. But there's then it becomes your choice of where is it going to stop with me? Is it going to stop with this moment? Is it going to stop right now? You know, that part is our decision of how far it goes.
Yeah. I see Mandy asked me a question. Yeah, she says, sorry to ask this, but how would you all feel if your kids did this to you? What you are doing to your mom? And I actually want to respond with that and say, my kids don't do that to me because I respect my kids and I treat them like adults. I do not belittle them. I do not try and ruin their lives. I do not tell lies about them. I do not smack them in the face. I do not push them out of houses. I do not talk down to them like I was talked down to. So my kids will never have to do that to me because I respect them enough and I love them enough to treat them like human beings and teach them how to treat themselves and other people. I mean, if you see me and my daughter together, it's not the same relationship as what I had with my mom. I know everything about my daughter, everything, every single thing. There's nothing nobody can tell me about my daughter that I do not know that she's told me herself because she trusts me. And I mean, we've been through a lot. She will sit me down, she will explain to me, and we'll sort out the problem together. But I do not I want to say this, I don't even know if that's what does her decisions or disrespect her decisions just because she's younger than me or I do not agree with her. So it all depends on how you treat your kids. I mean, kids don't just wake up and decide, oh, I don't want to be friends with my mom today. I mean, we all want that motherly love. We all want that. That's what we want. Your mother gave birth to you. We all want that that unconditional love from a mother, but then it should be unconditional. It shouldn't come with conditions. If you don't do this, then I do not respect you as my child. Or if you don't do this or believe this, I do not respect your decisions or how you live, because I do not understand them. And because I don't understand them, I belittle you and tell you you are wrong. I abuse you verbally and physically. I mean, it doesn't work like that. Then you do not deserve to have me as a child.
To add to what Ilse's saying, there are things like you could do all the right things, okay, as a parent, and you still have to, very much like we're talking about being the helper with other people, you still have to separate yourself from the outcome, because of there are a million other things that can tie into what a person's perspective is, what their response to you is, how they treat you, and all of that. So you could have done everything right as a mother, and a child could have mental illness. A child could be going through their own things. Not everything is put on how you treat your child, and you have to separate yourself from that outcome as well. It's something that I'm dealing with very personally in my world right now. I have 6 children who are immensely different, like unbelievably different from each other. I know that sounds funny to say, but I think sometimes subconsciously as a parent, we go, oh, my kids they're all my kids. They're all going to have something in common. They're all going to, be somewhat similar, but that's so far from the truth. It's unbelievable. And it's still, after 20 years, my oldest is 20. It blows my mind every day how different they are. And I have one son who really struggles with a lot of things. And I had taken so much energy and time sitting back going, what have I done wrong? And taking that on myself. And now I've got therapists and coaches and everything else saying, Jessica, you can't take that on. Because if it was you, literally every person in your world would be responding the same way. Because so everybody has their own issues, and you kind of have to, I know that it's difficult, but you have to sit back and say, I've done the best I could as a mother at the time. And even if there were mistakes that you made, which I know that there are, because we are not perfect humans. But even when you realize your mistakes of going, okay, I still did the best I could at the time. And now that's like literally what you're talking about, Mandy, is the hardest thing as a parent, the letting them fly part. Because everything you did up until they jump off the ledge to fly, none of that matters anymore. It's just done. You have to let them go. And sometimes it's going to suck. Sometimes it's going to be hard when they don't want to talk to you, when they respond in a negative way. But you have to understand that we are literally, as humans, we are a mosaic. We are a mosaic of circumstances, people that we've been in contact with, challenges, all of these different things that we go through. You're taking it all on yourself, and you can't do that. If your own happiness, joy, success, peace is dependent on you not internalizing the well-being of a person.
And I think that's kind of leading into what I was going to say. And oftentimes, because mothers tend to be the ones that raise the children one way or another, closer usually than the father, because traditionally the father is out there working and the mother is at home. And then the mother does all of these things. Like, I listened to my mother say this yesterday. She's like, I did all these things, for you. I gave my life, for you to do, and for your sister and for your brother. And now I'm not being repaid, or I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, wait a second. I'm like, first of all, happiness doesn't come from your children. Happiness comes from within. And if you're making it dependent on your children, that's your choice, but you can't control your children and what your children actually do. You can control how you perceive whatever it is that your children did, and recognize that, the people around you often respond to the energy from within you. So you need to consciously focus on the energy within and not have those kinds of expectations like, okay, if I did this for you, then you should give this back to me. When you do that, you're most likely going to become more depressed, especially if you come off with negative energy.
It's codependent.
It's codependency. And again, if your energy is negative, even, like years afterwards, and you're like, well, my child doesn't do this for me and my child doesn't do that. She says this a lot about my sister. And I'm like, well, wait a second. Oftentimes it's because of the energy that you have now created within and how you interact with them that is going to cause some of the challenges. Now, there's also the other side in terms of how they're going to respond, but ultimately your happiness comes from within. And if you tie it to something outside of you that you have no control over, which is everything, then you have put yourself in a situation where you're not going to win in the end, because the first place that it has to happen is right here inside of you.
Right. I think so. I would challenge everybody to do, like, there's an exercise that you can do that's going to be an ass kicking, but we need to do this sometimes. And that's that. Go through this weekend. And when something happens and you start to feel a certain way, whether it's happy, sad, angry, frustrated, pissed off, whatever it is, say to yourself in that moment, and this is something you have to train yourself to remember to do, write it on your hand if you need to. Right? Just in that moment, this is easy peasy. I'm choosing to feel this way. Just say that. I am choosing to feel this way. Mm-hmm. And because look, and people will say, well, the person's mean to me, or my bank account's at zero, or I was fired from my job, or my house just went up in flames. Yep. Those are all things that have happened. Absolutely. No one's denying that, but you are choosing how you're responding to any situation. Now, it doesn't mean that, like, okay, just example, your house just went up in flames. Okay. You're probably going to cry. You're probably going to be angry. There's probably a slew of emotions. And I think no one's saying in that moment to feel those things, but it's your choice how long you're going to allow that to go on for. So as long as you're good with crying in that moment and saying, like, your house is in flames right in front of you, you're standing here crying, you'd say, I'm choosing to feel this way. And that's okay. But taking ownership for your emotions and how you're choosing to feel and how long you're going to allow that to go on for is important. Mandy's saying, well, no one's here to help me. No one's here to help me either. I don't live near any family. I was in a domestic violence shelter with my 3 oldest children, 13 years ago. And I have all these situations, my husband's away 5 days out of the week now. There's been plenty of times in my life when I've had no one to help me. I've been on my own since I got married to my abusive ex at 19 years old. So there's been plenty of time. 21 years. It's been me, but I've had to choose. This is how I'm going to respond to that. And I'm sure it's hell not going to be anybody's victim. I am sure not going to sit here and have a pity party for me because it's my choice how I'm going to respond. When you start giving all the power to other people and circumstances, you're literally giving away all the power you have.
Yeah, and I see, where Mandy is saying that, she at 17, she had to make a very tough decision in terms of life support for her mother. And at the time, I'm sure it was a very traumatic experience. But you know what? As opposed to having a negative connotation to it, you released your mother from her earthly body and allowed her to move on to live in a whole different dimension that was a much better environment than the one that she was in.
There's so much empowerment behind that.
Yes. And what you did for her was amazing, because you allowed her to move on. And I think that way too often in today's world, especially because of modern medicine, we choose to keep people on life support longer than they really would have chosen themselves, because we want them to be there for us, not that we want to let them move on to what their next life is going to be. And now you start talking about a whole different perspective on what it means to keep somebody on life support. And those are the types of things that, you know, when I was in school, I was bio pre-med, and we had to take bioethics classes. And these were kind of the questions that came up. It's like, just because we can, should we? And oftentimes when we do, it is not for them. It is for us who are still there and wanting to hold on to that security blanket, even though they want to move on to the next dimension.
Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of, go ahead, Ilse.
Brian Michael has got a nice comment here. When you need to be lifted up, get on your knees. I like that. I like that. Mandy, coming back to what Mandy says, it's such a difficult situation. But we always tend to think, yeah, but I want to sort it out now. You must remember that your daughter, wherever she is making decisions in her life. And you don't know if in the future, one day she's going to need you. So you focus on you, because we are in this world alone. You came into this world alone. You're going to die alone, because when you die, nobody's going to go with you. When you die, it's over. That is the whole point of this situation. Everybody's going to die. Nobody's going to not die or skip that part. And so you just need, your job or purpose, is to work on yourself. So when your daughter comes back and you guys talk about that, you see it from her point of view, because everybody that talks to you is reflecting. And that's what Harry said on the 8 show last night. Everybody you see is just a reflection of yourself. So your daughter's trying to reflect something back to you. That's why you need to fix and have a good relationship with yourself, and then your relationship with your children, it will improve. It definitely will. I didn't always have a relationship like this with my kids, because I used to mom like my mom. If I'm not happy with something, I shout at them and carry on. And I went on my knees one night and I said, I don't want to be like my mother. I don't want to raise my kids like my mother, and I don't want my kids to feel like I felt when I was younger. Yes, I was a rebel. Hair on your head will stand up straight if you hear the shit that I gave my parents. But I grew up and I had to change myself, because I didn't want to be that kind of person to the people around me. So you need to focus on you and figure out why you feel you need support, because you are more than capable of projecting your dreams that's inside you to the outside, but you are holding on to what if, could it, how did he say? What if, could if, and my English is leaving me again, but that is it. You're worrying about the past and you're worried about the future, and you're missing all this opportunity to grow and to take the information and to grow on a spiritual level. So when your daughter needs you, you can be there for her.
Yeah.
All we got a lot of people like, talking about, what's going on here. Oops, there we go. We all have our demons, so we have to constantly, be coping with something in our lives. We always have something to be coping with. The world, the most powerful force in the world is compound interest, aka exponents. Well, it's really about every day in life, we're going to run into some kind of challenges. Some of those challenges we see as positive things, and we remember them as positive. Some of those challenges are negative things, and we choose to place a negative connotation on that, or a negative meaning. So those are the types of things that we need to be aware of. And then, in every day you get 1% better. Pretty soon, that starts turning into real change. One of the things that I've said many times, on the show, as well as to my brother and other people, is that, and my sister too, I was like, choose different words to explain what you just said to me. Because when you take an emotionally charged word like sodomized, and it's like, what? And change that into something else. Change it into something that's less emotionally charged. If somebody says that you were, if you say it's killing me, well, you are putting a very highly emotionally charged word on an event. And you can say, well, it's bothering me, it's annoying me, and people are like, I don't want to do that. That's bullshit. It doesn't make a difference if I change the word. Yes, it does. If you consistently choose the words that you use to describe a situation, they will change your focus. When you change your focus, then your energy goes in that direction. So consciously choose the words that you use. It's a simple thing, but again, oftentimes people are like, no, this is how I feel. I'm like, no, this is how you choose to describe how you feel.
Right.
And change it and consistently change it, and your world will change. But
it's not just the words. You mustn't just change the words, because you can say the most beautiful words with the shittiest attitude and it means nothing, or with the shittiest body language. So you need to change your whole view of the situation and how you approach it. I mean, if you made a mistake, you want somebody to come to you and explain to you why you hurt their feelings in a place of compassion, and you do not want to get upset when they tell you that. You want to understand where they're coming from. So if somebody comes to you with a defensive body language, and you're not even listening to the words, you're immediately feeling the energy and seeing, okay, well, yeah, I have to defend myself, and you don't even know what you said or did. So it all comes down, it comes down to a lot more than just words. It's words, it's eye contact, it's body language, it's energy that you do it with. It's just communication in a whole.
Yeah, and just to let everybody know, we're waiting. At the top of the hour, hopefully Terry will be here. He's not yet in the background, but waiting for him to bring onto the show. Normally, the guest comes on in the latter part of the show. So just wanted to let everybody know that. And coming in, Bob Seymour is, let fear control your thoughts and it will control everything in your life. Bob is out there every day kind of interacting with people that have a need for him. And it's amazing to watch him work and to listen to his stories. And Bob has amazing stories, and a lot of them from what he's done in just the past 6 years. When Bob chose to make a change in his life, to go from a minister behind the pulpit to a minister on the road, or a support that's on the road working, with one and two or a small group of people at a time in situations or in environments that people oftentimes criticize him for, because he may be in a bar helping them while drinking a Crown Royal. And traditional support people and ministers and things, look down on him because he's doing that. But Bob is out there where the people are, and he's impacting those lives. He cannot change those lives. He knows that, but he can provide some stories. He can provide some guidance. He can provide some influence, and it's up to those people to make the change. But Bob is called to be there through who knows how, but he gets these messages, and he goes, and then through the connections he has, he gets more, and he's out there every day kind of doing it that way. And like we talked about, it's really about taking the opportunity to do whatever you can. First of all, to work on yourself, which Bob had to do. I mean, Bob went through some challenging times too. And, he talks about when he lost the love of his life, his wife, and that was kind of the turning point in which he then took that traumatic situation and turned it around to try and help as many people as he possibly can. in a way that is much different than the traditional ministerial type profession or activities. And it's amazing to watch them work, because I remember we were sitting at the bar just the other day when Bob was there to support Miss Carly, and she's got an amazing mission, and he's there to help to MC things. People in bars won't go to church, so I take the church to the bars. That's exactly right. And while we were there, I mean, Bob happened to meet some people at the bar, and then he strikes up a conversation, oftentimes, and then the conversation goes in a direction where Bob imparts a few ideas or gems that they can then take with them and look at changing the way that they are perceiving life. And that's an amazing thing when you see people do that. And we all have that ability. But first of all, we have to focus on ourselves. And sometimes we do go into a darker space for a while. But you need to continue to try to focus on the light that's there and move toward it. And when you do, and you bring that into your soul, that's when you can really help others.
I see our guest is here. Let me read the bio. Jess, we did not talk about your show at all.
Yeah, Jess, talk about your show real quick. I'm sorry.
5 minutes.
The funny thing is that it tied. So what I had to share today tied so beautifully into the conversation. But Bob got 2 shows this week, so that's cool. But so the big theme of the Breakthrough Show tomorrow is about awareness and self-awareness. And I have Troy Aiken on, who was recently a guest on Java Delight, and him and I have the start of a great relationship, and both being vegan and seeing what we can do to create change in that area of the world. And it's all about small changes, big difference. And so really getting to know ourselves and to realize that that's where our focus should be. And through those little changes we make with ourselves, we can make a big difference in the world. I also have Laura Staley on the show, who shares a lot. This would be a great episode for Mandy to tune in as well. Shares a lot from a perspective of a mother and the changes that she had to make within herself to bring awareness, forgiveness, a lot of the themes that we've talked about today. And so going to be a great show tomorrow with Troy Aiken and Laura Staley.
Thank you
Awesome.
so
And I
much.
think, Jane kind of brings the same kind of thing up. Sometimes we just need to let time pass and give people time to process things and to focus on ourselves. So when they do need us, we're there for them, and we give off the energy that they really need. So I think that's an amazing comment that Jane made there. And it ties into what you were saying, Jess, and looking forward to, what your show is going to bring to others that are watching tomorrow. And it's through things like our show and Jess's show that we try to offer opportunities for people of different backgrounds and bring up things that have happened in our lives so that others can, learn from them or hear about them and relate to them in different ways. Not always the easiest thing to bring up some challenges that we have in our lives. But everybody has had challenges. It's really about how we've dealt with them. And it's not always that we dealt with them healthy to begin with. Sometimes we were in the same kind of a funk as others. And it takes time and recognition that, I guess I need to do something about that. Not, I need somebody to do it for me. Life is not done to you. Life is done for you. So choose what it really means for you and what you can do with your life, because life is really there for you. It's not done to you. And I think just that change in perception is something that can be very helpful as well.
Absolutely.
That is amazing. Thank you so much. Am I reading?
Ilse, do you want to read the bio?
I got you. Let me just quickly go in here. I don't know why you're giving me all the difficult surnames this week. Okay, so we have Terry. Is it Sidhu? I think I'm pronouncing it right. Terry was
Yeah.
introduced to meditation at a young age. He was raised in a Sikh household. I don't know how to pronounce that. Sikh. I want to know what that
Sikh.
is. Sikh household. Now he has taught over 200 clients how to meditate in the past 2 years, including kids. Through teaching meditation, he has helped over 100 people manage their mental health without medication. Additionally, he has helped clients get out of unhealthy relationships and into healthy ones, launch their businesses, start their careers, and explore their inner spirituality through his coaching services. All of his endeavors with his clients, audience members, and readers are to help them realize they can learn to meditate, which will improve their lives. When I'm not working with clients, when he's not working with clients, he enjoys writing, hiking, and meditating, especially when he has a weekend to do a tantric ritual and discussing and debating solutions of life's biggest problems.
So we're really looking forward to conversation with Terry and Jess. Thank you so much for being here. If you're still in the background at the end of the show, we can bring you on to give a final word and of encouragement to everybody. But right now, we're going to go to our sponsor's message, and then we'll be right back with Terry.
Hi, my name is Brandon. And over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram, lab-tested, all-natural, water-soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, and your delight when you need it most.
Good morning, Terry. How are you this fine day?
I am very well, thank you. I believe it's morning where you are. Right now it's afternoon where I am. It's about...
Where are
it's
you?
Afternoon where I'm as well.
Oh, nice. I'm in England right now. I just flew back a couple of weeks ago, and I'm starting a new position here in a university. So it's time to start a new chapter of my life here.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Flew
That
back
is so
from where? Where
exciting.
were you before?
In Canada. So I've been in Canada for the last 10 years, in BC specifically. And I just moved from a small little town called Nelson, BC, which is really wonderful. And I do miss it, and I'll be back there shortly. It's just, being in the UK is interesting.
How did the whole move go with the COVID and the airports and everything? Did you have any challenges?
It was test after test after test. It was many tests. But the advantage was I got a couple of seats to myself, so I was able to stretch out and enjoy the flight, because I don't particularly enjoy flying. But in the UK, everything seems to be business as usual, but it is quite intense and stressful out there. So just kind of keeping the calm and trying to just feel the vibes and the energy of the country.
The energy has been very, very hectic with the full moon and everything. I have been feeling so, I won't say off balance, but like a little weird since the full moon started. It's actually scary how it affects you as a person. I have my first question is, what is a Sikh? Is it Sikh?
Sikh.
Is it Sikh?
Yes.
Sikh. What is that? I have no idea. What is it? A religion? A certain type of religion?
Yes, Sikhism, traditionally speaking, is a certain type of religion. Yes, it comes from the northern part of India, from Punjab. It's one of the most unknown major religions in the world. It's very popular, but not many people know about it. And it's very akin to Buddhism and Taoism. And the philosophy is very simple. Everyone is born equal, man, woman, everything in between. Everyone is equal. And you merely live your life being a good human and seeking truth. So whatever you uncover the truth to be, just follow and trust in your truth, and you will navigate your life forward. And that's pretty much sums it all up. Everything else comes from culture, which tends to blur the religion a lot. And I'm not a devout Sikh, as you can see, I don't have a turban, I don't have a long beard. But the values are very important to me. I was surrounded by them. Meditation was in the artwork actually growing up. So there's a lot of artwork in the house and going to temple. So that's where the influence of meditation kind of came from for me.
Oh,
It was
that's so
interesting because I was aware of the Sikhs. I took a class in Far Eastern religion when I was in college, and believe me, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism all relate much stronger to me than any Western belief. But one of the things that I thought was so challenging, as we were talking about, I was, 9/11, my duty station as a reservist was the Pentagon. And a lot of times the Sikhs tended to be tied together with like the Taliban and those types of things because of the turbans that they wear. And so many people in this world have no idea what the Sikhs are, much less the ability to differentiate the Sikh from what they saw on TV from the Taliban and those types of things. So I think the Sikh population outside of India especially were somewhat persecuted because of what they wore as opposed to the reality of what it was.
Yeah, and the irony of that, the way Sikhs identify themselves with the turban, with the beard, and with the other elements of their attire, it's supposed to, when you see a Sikh, the whole point of the uniform, the whole point of that identity is to be able to identify someone that can help you, that can support you. At the Sikh temple, if you go to any Sikh temple across the world, you can get a free meal. If you speak to a Sikh person and you ask for help, they will help you. It's a very humanitarian religion. And it's kind of, I say Buddhism, it's got the very internal work going on. It's got the very, let's be Zen, let's be compassionate. And where Sikhism takes it a little step further, where it's like, let's take a little bit of action. And and it comes from northern India, where most of the farmland was. The roots are tied to agriculture. So Sikhs are known to feed people and take care of people and house people. And the temples are designed for community service. So it's very disturbing around 9/11 to hear from family members, relatives, and people just around the world who are getting abuse. And it was just a huge shock knowing that, where the practice of religion comes from.
Yeah, so that's why I think it's good, for shows like ours and anywhere else where, people can get a little bit more information on these differences that oftentimes when we grow up in a particular country and culture, we don't oftentimes get exposed to cultures outside of that, and then we misinterpret what certain things mean, whether it be the way that the hats, if you want to call it that, the turbans that people wear, the beards, the dress, those things can look similar, but that doesn't mean that the beliefs are similar.
One of the things I particularly enjoyed about the religion too was being taught that there isn't, because Sikhism was from two major superpowers. You've got the Hindus on one side and the Muslims on the other.
Yeah.
And one of the things I learned growing up was there is no Muslim, there is no Hindu, there is no other religion, there is no Sikh. There's just people. And Sikhism has been branded a religion now, but from the way I understood it and the way I studied it, it really just stems from just be a good person. Just follow your truth and you'll live a blissful,
It's actually
happy
not that
life.
difficult. It's not that difficult. It's not rocket science. You do not need a PhD to know how to treat people with compassion and
exactly.
Well, I think it's those outside things like you were alluding to, Terry, where you have these challenges between groups, between groupthink, between leaders of different religions that then get followed, as opposed to people breaking it back down to one-on-one people versus people talking to people, as opposed to people versus people. Though I would say either one, as long as you get that one-on-one communication and you kind of break away from that group think, you realize that people are people too.
Mm-hmm.
And if
to get, I'm so sorry, Brett.
no, go ahead, Terry. I think you're going to say something too.
I'm pulling a Brandon on myself. I'm interrupting today, so if nobody to mute me. I'm so sorry. Getting to your meditating, I have tried to get into meditating and watching the videos on YouTube, but my mind is always busy. And you teach people how to meditate. What tips do you have for us? Let's start there. How can you help us with meditating if someone has never meditated before?
I think it comes from knowledge of what you're actually attaining and what you're doing. Because I think when people think of meditation, a lot of us think silencing the mind and shutting down the thoughts and, just clearing the mind of clutter straight away. But the truth is, the art of meditation is the art of detachment. Which means to let go of the things that you are dealing with, to not shut them down, just to let them be. And what that means, or the practice I teach my clients and my groups and my students, is all you have to do is think of is first how you identify yourself. If you're identifying yourself as body when in meditation, it's always going to be a struggle. It's kind of like meditation and sleep go hand in hand. Like, I can't teach you how to sleep. You just sleep. It's a state of mind. Meditation is the same thing. So what I'm teaching and what I'm going to go through is how you can activate and enter that meditative state. And the first thing I would teach is first identify yourself as the version of yourself that exists within your own mind. So, for example, if I ask you to think of a red lemon, that version of a red lemon, the version of you that can conjure up a red lemon in your mind, is the same version that can see through your eyes and smell through your nose and taste through your mouth. So we identify that as the higher self, or consciousness, or the inner self, or the governing self. The New Age world has many, many words for it. This is just the truer version of you. This is consciousness. This is you existing as self. So once you understand and grasp that there's a version of you that exists beyond your body, it's you have a body, you are not the body. You have a body, it's part of your extension of self. But even going to a simpler step before that is, whenever you find yourself getting distracted, you're trying to sit down and you're trying to just be in a Zen mode, but things like, I've got to empty the dishwasher, or I've got to get this done and that done, and this stress is coming into my life, you consciously return back to breath. So, for example, it's kind of like your mind presents something, and that thing is a distraction. It could be a sound, a sense, a thought, a feeling. And if it's something, if that thought, feeling, sound, whatever that distraction is, if it serves and enlightens you, by all means, interact with it, get to know it, explore the thought. Like if you have an idea that you really need that can help you out with your life, by all means, explore the idea within your own mind. However, if it's a distraction that doesn't serve you, you simply go, and you condition your mind to separate yourself from that thought. It's almost like, no. Go back to breath. We don't want this. It's almost like you're dragging yourself out of the thought with an inhale and settling you back down to center. And what will happen is you'll get dragged back into that thought again. And you just have to go back to breath and bring yourself out of it. It's almost like, here's your distraction or a thought, and this is you constantly being pulled to it. So you have to consciously, with breath, pull yourself out, and you'll keep getting pulled. And what will happen is, the more you practice, you condition your mind to detach to a point where you exist separately from your thought. And once you're able to do that and exist as that, you've officially begun and entered your meditative state. And then you can do whatever you want. You can study that thought, and we can go deeper into it. But the simplest way to understand meditation and all your thoughts and feelings is, think of yourself as a creator, and think of everything that you're experiencing as a creation. And so when you've successfully detached, you are now a creator. What you're experiencing is a creation. And the question is, what is the source of this creation? And then you enter that little rabbit hole and your meditation begins beautifully.
Oh, wow. I like that. Okay. And then it says, that you can teach children to do this as well?
Yeah,
Okay, so
children.
my 5-year-old does not sit still, but I would like her to I would like to teach her. Me and her dad had a very, very rough divorce. So when she gets to me, it's like you have to reset her personality a bit, just to relax, and because it's two different households and things get different. And how do I do that? How do I get her to meditate?
This is the thing with children and meditation. One of the things I noticed when I started teaching kids, and it was a huge realization for me, we don't ask children what they want to learn. I remember my first kids class, I was like, so kids, what do you want to learn about today? And all sorts of answers. I want to learn about spiders. I want to learn about trees. I want to learn about the sky. So what I would do, instead of getting them to sit in stillness and trying to get to a still state, I'll ask them, I was like, right, if you want to learn, we're going to learn about spiders today. So, and then I teach them about the several techniques. So first I'll teach them the technique of sitting in meditation like it's a superpower. And you have to think and feel like a spider. So if you are a spider, where would you be hiding? With all these big people, like really create an image of what it will be like for a spider and get them to sit with their eyes closed thinking like that. That within itself is a meditation. And then what happens is they'll sit for a couple of minutes just thinking of what it would be like to live like a spider. And then I'll get them to open their eyes and go find it. Within seconds, they find a spider because they're developing empathy and they're developing a connection to another life form. And so that's one way to teach them. Another, and it's always making it fun and engaging. A lot of kids, when they have a lot of energy, I introduce Sufi Meditations. There's lots of ways to meditate. And it's all about controlling breath. So I'll get them to run around really fast and get out of breath. And then I'll get them to stop. And then I get them to find their pulse and control their breath and regain control. And then teach them all these techniques to help them. And I teach them, like, when you get angry. So what happens when you get angry? You lose control of your breath. And so what they're learning now is to control their sense of self and self and manage their behaviors a little bit better. So it's really, when you're teaching meditation to children, you're teaching them their independence. You're teaching them to think independently, to think creatively. You're not teaching them stillness. They are new to this world. They are curious, engaging with the world around them. They're brand new to this experience called life, essentially. And it's getting them to tap into that as opposed to separating them from it. We need to separate from it because we don't have the experience. We've lost that innocence and curiosity to explore. So we need to detach to really figure out our next move, whereas children don't. So you just got to tap into what they're doing already and introduce meditation as a way for them to continue playing and engaging with the world. One more technique I can share with you is my nephew. Is when I started teaching kids meditation, I really worked with my nephew, and he was about 4 or 5 years old at the time. I would get him to grab a rock from the garden, any size rock, and usually he'd been a little cheeky boy, he'd get the biggest rock he could find. And I was like, in this rock is a superpower that you can pull out. And so I'd get him to hold it, and I'd teach him the moves of meditation, get him to sit cross-legged with the rock. And I get him to close his eyes and use breath to pull in the energy from the rock and exhale to bring it into his body. Just noticing he can get calmer, thinking that he's drawing a superpower from the rock, gets him to sit in that meditative state. And then teaching him, like, whenever you feel angry or sad or you're scared, just find a rock and find a magic rock that you can hear it. You know, this rock can help you, make you be happy. That rock can make you fly. And just get them excited about it. And then you kind of pseudo teach them meditation. So there's a couple of techniques for you.
I like that. That's really cool because rocks are usually available to you in one way, shape, or form. Yeah. So they're always there to help you. I think that's really a cool way to do that.
Hi, Sherry. Sherry is back. She had an operation yesterday, but she's okay. We just want to send her love. Hi, Sherry.
Hi, Sherry.
Get well soon, Sherry.
Sorry, guys.
So I see that you've had a chance to help many people in their mental health without medication. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that aspect of what you do and what you've been able to accomplish, because I know that there's a lot of people on our show that, they tune in for different reasons, but, having that type of challenge within their families or themselves or whatever is really one of the key things that we really try to bring out in a lot of different aspects of our show and shows that we have on top of it.
So where can I? There's so many. So there's a Rolodex of clients to think about. I would tell you one of the first, most profound experiences I had. So I didn't know how big of a deal meditation could be. It was something that was just part of my life. And when I realized people weren't doing it, I started understanding why there was so much anxiety and depression and fear in the world. And I remember a friend of mine actually started coming out, told me he was feeling suicidal. And it really blew me away. I was like, I have a friend in my life who doesn't feel like they want to be alive. Like, I have a friend that doesn't want to be alive. This is what's going on here. So I was like, since he already feels like he doesn't have anything to lose, I was like, before you jump off that bridge, come over to my place. I'm going to teach you something. And then I started talking to him about meditation. I was like, there's this technique I can teach you. And I've read about it, I've studied it, I've tried it myself a couple of times, and it's a very effective technique. You see, there's a point in meditation which no one really talks about. The gurus won't talk about this. The people on the mountains won't share this information very easily, is where you can transcend to a point where you can leave the body, where you can leave the body behind. And I was like, well, if you've already got the motivation to leave this body behind, then try my way. If you're going to do it anyway, do it this way. So I taught him the technique, and I taught it was radical detachment, letting go. So whenever he would have a thought or a feeling, let it go. It's exactly the same story as the Buddha, really. The Buddha, if you think about it, you really dive deep into his story, it sounded suicidal to me too. He was like, well, if I can't, I'm just going to sit under this Bodhi tree until I find the truth. I'm going to not connect to I'm going to detach from my feelings of hunger. I'm going to detach from my feelings of pain and just let it all go. And that's how he experienced states of transcendence. So I was like, let's share the same technique. If you've got nothing to lose, you detach from the pain in your legs, detach from the fears in your mind, let it all go. Forget it. Even just sitting in meditation, allow yourself to drift off and drift into a state of basically in a state beyond life. And then encouraging him and teaching him the techniques. Detach, let it go. Don't like it, breathe. Go back to breath. Go back to breath. Go back to breath. Oh, now you have bright ideas. No, go back to breath. Let them go. You are ready to leave this world behind. No. Don't go anywhere. Don't bring those ideas back to life. Keep going. Keep letting them go. And then all it did really was condition him to take back control of self and reset himself back to the very essence of all life. Breathing. And teaching him that and conditioning that really started helping him release himself of his addictions. I mean, it's not perfect yet, but the management is there. And just seeing him thrive a little bit more was incredible. And knowing that that was a possibility, I was like, right, what else can I do with this meditation stuff? I've got all this information that's just going to waste. Who else can I teach? And I was coaching full time, a life coaching full time at the time of my presenting meditation to the world and my peers. My clients started asking me about mental health, and then we started getting into anxiety and depression and fear and things. So I started introducing a few techniques. And so radical detachment for people who are depressed and suicidal was working a treat. And then I got a client suffering through PTSD. And with PTSD, it's a very interesting conversation. It's very personal. And the thing with PTSD is teaching the elusive nature of reality. So, for example, if I ask you to think about what you had for breakfast, but I ask you now, in the middle of that breakfast, place a purple balloon with eyes and legs. You can do that easily, right? Yeah, and you can even, if you want, if you're eating breakfast with someone or yourself, you can imagine yourself as a dinosaur eating your breakfast. You can do that easily, correct? So already you're realizing the illusion that is your memory, the control you have of that memory. So these are the techniques we start with when working with individuals with PTSD. We teach them the elusive nature of reality, and there's a whole talk behind it that goes with it. And what we're essentially doing is we're getting the mind to recognize memory as something that is being given life. Like that memory that when I asked you to think about what you had for breakfast, you are consciously moving back into time and you're reviving dead energy and you're giving it life. So when we talk about PTSD, this is what's happening. We are feeding life to a memory that is bringing life back, basically triggering us here in the present. So once we're able to recognize the elusive nature of memory, we slowly backtrack back to that point of trauma. And then eventually we play with the trauma a little bit. First, we like edge and we're like, okay, we're going to enter this trauma now. But before we've got there, we've been playing with all sorts of memories and practicing this. And I'm usually working one-on-one, and it's not guaranteed, but it's something that we can try. It's almost like EMDR, but mindful, without not using your senses, like sitting in meditation. And then in the memory, you're starting to, because you practice all this control with all your recent memories, you're going to that traumatic memory and you're starting to do the same thing. Maybe for example, there was one client I had who was suffering from severe child abuse. And so what we did, we got to a point where we could freeze frame the memory, and then we started painting the walls. We ripped the ceiling off the house, and we shrunk the abuser to a grain of rice and grew him in the memory much greater. And the thing is, you think that's, when people hear that, they're like, oh, you're changing the memory. It's like, no, the mind is so powerful. You're also creating a memory of the changes that you're making. What that client particularly was doing was releasing the energy of that memory that had a grip on him in the present. By shrinking his abuser to a grain of rice, by changing all these elements, he started realizing what was controlling his life, an illusion, something that doesn't even exist anymore. You know, the present is here. Your body only exists in the physical world. Your trauma is not here, it's in the past, but it's constantly being fed energy. But we have to pull that energy out. So by playing with the memory, by giving that client control over that memory, slowly but surely the effects and the symptoms of the PTSD, obviously with practice, started shrinking. And now you can be a little bit more present in life. And that's essentially what we're doing. I mean, I can go a little bit more esoteric with it, but essentially we're drawing back energy from the memory and bringing it more to life. And that's what being present is. Like if you imagine your breath as the force that keeps everything alive, it's the same force that keeps your memories alive. It's the same force that keeps your ideas alive. But when you start pulling them out of your memories and you start pulling them out of the future and of any preconceived idea of what life is, and you start reserving all the energy for the present, slowly these other elements don't have effect on your present life.
So is that what you call shadow work as well, helping them to do the shadow work with meditation, or is that two completely different things?
Shadow work in my line of work is quite literal. Like shadow work to me is more tantric. You know, looking at your shadow, like literally looking at your shadow and dancing with your shadow and seeing the energy of what your shadow emits. What I do there's a female empowerment workshop I taught once. And what we did, we put a playlist on. I think it was like a Madonna playlist we put together. And we shone a light to the wall and we created shadows. And what we did was we let the shadow be the mirror instead of a regular mirror. And so people could then see how their posture and how they were aligned in life and how they were being perceived. And so what we did was get these women to kind of change their shape and show how they wanted to be. And their shadow would emit it a little bit. The thing is about the shadow, it's so elusive, you can bend the light a little bit more and it can change. So being able to do that, it kind of became a reflection of what energy you can emit without even trying. That's a whole different ballpark. But shadow work is very interesting. But that again is more is like a post-transcendental experience. Shadow work in the early stages, if we're looking at going into the deep depths to dark of our memories, then yes, it's similar, but in my line of work, it's a little different.
So I really like the concept of radical detachment.
Mm-hmm.
I think oftentimes people feel that they need to go through this massive history, kind of like talk therapy and that kind of stuff. And you got to go through all of this stuff in order to be able to understand where you come from and then decide where you want to go. And most often when they do that, they just drive their story deeper and deeper inside, when in fact what you're really teaching is how do you detach from that traumatic event, that experience, and place kind of a different surrounding, a different meaning to it, by painting the rooms, by blowing the roof off, by doing those types of things, so that eventually what happens is the meaning that you're applying to that event has changed. And I think that you mentioned something that was really kind of neat, and that is, at the same time, you're creating a memory of how you actually changed the surroundings of that event, which can then be used in other events and things along those lines. So you've got a memory, you've kind of changed the way it looked, but you remember how you changed the way that it looked, so that you can actually apply it to other aspects of life and so forth as well. Now, when you talked about, some of those more traumatic things, like your friend that was contemplating suicide, you said that he's better, but is it something that you have to continue to work on and continue to go back? Because even though you've kind of gone through that, taking this big giant memory and shrinking it down and then making yourself so much bigger than the memory, does that require many sessions, or have you found that it's been able to, be something that can happen relatively quickly?
It's case by case. It really is. Which is why I've kind of shifted my focus a little bit to teaching teachers, because I realized doing it on my own, it takes a lot of energy, it takes a lot of time to work on, and I do work with clients. That's why, even though it says, I've worked with a few hundred clients, it's such a small amount. Like, I can do so much more work by teaching teachers how to teach meditation so they can put these practices in. And part of the reason why I accepted this opportunity at the university, so that I can start getting into the academic field and get some of my work put professionally or academically researched, so that we can create something that is a lot quicker and a lot smoother and a lot less invasive too. With pills, with a lot of therapy, a lot of it requires you to be vulnerable. Whereas when you're sitting in meditation, you are just sitting with yourself. You are in your own mind, you are in your own space. You're not speaking or communicating to anyone. What I teach, I'm not saying what the world is like. I'm not telling you how you should be or how you should feel. All I'm teaching you is a technique to help you go back there and relate to it a little differently. So it's kind of like some people who have an aptitude for it tend to get very quickly into it and understand it very well. Others tend to get attached to me and want to learn more from me and just turn me into this guru character, which I'm not. And so navigating through that is a little bit difficult, but that's why I wrote the book too, because I teach the simple steps in the book about this. So they get the 5 steps, which is detaching, the breathe, position, lock, meditate, integrate. The main process of detachment, it's in there. And then I've got a little section about deepening your meditation if you want to access those transcendental states. And then what I also threw in the book was this section called activating intelligence, which is teaching. Have you heard of chakras?
Yes.
Yes. So chakras are like these little knowledge centers in the body, and the New Age world has overcomplicated them. It's oversaturated. Don't worry about the colors or the frequencies. Keep it very, very simple. And so I wrote this last section in the book is if you're not going to sit in contemplation, if you're not feeling motivated to quietly sit in contemplation and get into a state of meditation, then try this alternative way. Starting with the root, your health, moving on to the sacral, the state of play, your state of interaction with the world, and going into self-trust and learning step by step based on your base level of physical and metaphysical intelligence. And it sounds complicated, but it's so simple. I tend to overcomplicate it with the words that I use, but when people read the book, they're like, oh, it's actually very, very easy. It's so easy. It's literally just listening to your body. It's as simple as, right, your body tells you when you're hungry, so just eat. Your body tells you when you're sleepy, so sleep. Your body tells you when it's time to meditate, so meditate. And that's basically all the intelligence is. And if we don't get in this is what's funny. I read all these articles about AI taking over the world. I was like, well, duh. If we're not going to access the intelligence that we have, these computers are going to take over straight away. It's going to be inevitable. And I don't know. It just blows my mind the level of intelligence we have access to as individuals, and we haven't been taught or don't know how. And I'm like screaming from every corner, taking every opportunity to speak about it, because it really is lost knowledge. And the worst thing is knowledge that's being taught, like mindfulness, it's not even anywhere near to what you're capable of. Mindfulness is just where your meditation begins and where it ends. In the middle is a whole lot of work and a whole lot of opportunity and experience and exploration. But mindfulness is your landing ground. The present moment is your landing ground. It's where your meditation begins, and you take off and you explore and you come back down, and there you are again, back in the present moment. All that's being taught in meditation in the academic side is mindfulness, and all that's being studied is mindfulness. So basically what's being studied is what you're experiencing with the 5 physical senses. And it's like, well, most of us are trying to escape that. So I don't know. I'm trying.
I wanted to kind of bring up your website and introduce people to exactly where they can look to find you and so forth. And I'll put it out there in our chat so that people can see it as well and click on it. But you've got it looks like what is this? Why is that doing that? Okay, there we go. So you've got your book, which is also available on Amazon, it looks like.
Yep, I released that last year in November.
Okay, and then within the website, you've got information about yourself and some of the other things that you have in terms of your services, which I think is amazing. That people click on his site. There's a book a free meditation assessment call.
So these are for potentially new clients. So I take clients on a case-by-case basis. I'm not openly coaching as much anymore, so availability is limited. But the meditation assessment call is just to understand where people are with their meditation practice and how they want to deepen it and connect to it a little bit more. It also includes like how to get into meditation. I tend to recommend people go through the book first before booking a call, because it'll give you a foundation level of knowledge from which we can work on. I work really fast with my clients, and I'd like to get results very quickly. So a little bit of foundational work is important. These are just some of the, I've been coaching for many years. So this goes back down to like 2014. But there's actually a free meditation starter pack as well. If you just go to meditatethebook.com. And and you can see, if you scroll down, you can get a free meditation starter pack right at the bottom there. And enter your email address and it'll give you access. And the meditation starter pack includes a guided meditation, a introduction to the 5-step process, a free video, and and the introduction to the book. So the whole first section of the book, Introduction to Meditation, it includes that whole PDF. So those who are interested in learning more, there's enough free information out there for you to get started. And then this will connect you to the course that I've put together, which I've put at a very discounted rate, so that people can just start learning. I'm trying to get all this information out there as simply and accessible as possible, because it's important. There's enough for me to, in terms of resources and accumulating resources, I'm one individual that can take care of myself. So I don't need a whole empire.
Right.
I teach meditation so I can go to better parties and have better conversations, if I'm very honest.
You see, there's always a plus side. There's always a plus side.
Because I go out into the world, I'm like, man, I'm bored. Like, where's all the exciting conversation? Like, what I enjoy, again, is talking about solutions to life's biggest problems. But if most people's problems in their life are so micro, how are we going to fix the macro? How are we going to fix the bigger picture when dealing with so many internal conflicts? So it's like, right, I've got something that can help you with the internal conflicts. Once you're fixed, come, let's hang out and let's throw a party. Let's have some fun. Let's talk about what we can do. Let's not create community. Let's just be community. You know, everyone's trying to segregate themselves from the mass collective consciousness, when really, how can you do that when we are all connected in one? So let's just be the community that we are. Let's clear the micro. Let's work on the macro together. But it's a highly ambitious plan. But I've tried to put it together as best as I possibly can.
We've got one of our viewers have got a question for you, Mr. Bradley Stokes. Can you explain why the gut always seems to know best? The trust your gut syndrome.
The gut syndrome. This is in that last section of activating intelligence in the book. The gut is where the solar plexus chakra is. It's all about instinct and knowing oneself. There's two chakras that come before it: the root and the sacral. So the root chakra is all about health, sustaining your connection to life, so keeping you alive, basically. So it's all about the cyclical connection. It's about breath, how you breathe out oxygen, breathe in carbon dioxide. Now the plants breathe in, that cyclical connection with life. Like we can't survive without Earth. Earth can't survive without us. We're all interconnected. We can't survive without food. Blah blah blah. So the root teaches you all about keeping yourself alive. That's number one. The sacral, which is the second chakra, teaches you about your interactions with the world, how to keep yourself safe, how to navigate, how to engage your physical senses. If you can trust yourself to climb that mountain or explore deep into the ocean, that's what the sacral chakra will kind of teach you. So those are the two base levels of human, and I would say, existence, to be alive. Once those are in fulfillment in some way, that's where the solar plexus comes in. You can trust yourself. If you can keep yourself alive and keep yourself navigating through the world, you can trust yourself. And that's where gut instinct comes in. However, sometimes when we don't trust that, it's because someone's telling us how to be alive, and something else is telling us how to be alive, and something else is telling us how to interact with the world. And that's why we distrust our gut. However, most people who I've met who have a strong instinct or trust that gut instinct tend to have ownership of their root and their sacral first. So that's where I believe it comes from. It's that knowledge center well knows that, okay, it's responding to the physical and the metaphysical. So it's responding to the things that keep you alive and keep you navigating through the world. And it's also responding to the truth up here. The truth from the crown, the truth from the inner sense, the third eye, the truth from the throat, the heart. It's like the second brain that governs the metaphysical energy. This brain keeps the whole body alive and gives access to higher information. The one at the gut, it keeps everything in harmony and balance. It ensures, so for example, if your meditation is going really deep to a point where if you go any deeper, you're going to lose a limb because you're sitting on your legs for so long, the gut instinct's going to kick and say, hey, come back. You know, if you're about, do that feeling of walking on the edge of a cliff or something, like, I'm going to fall, that's your gut instinct saying step back. It's a very important tool, and we need to nourish it so well in order to really thrive. And it's basic, it's simple, you can do it. And that's where it comes. I hope that answered that question.
I think that's really.
Sorry, Brett. Go. It's fine.
I was just gonna say that, you know, and then even from a physiological perspective, it's really interesting because, you know, your gut is so much more tied to like your limbic system, to your amygdala, to your lizard brain, which is about like what you were just saying. When you're sitting on your legs for so long that your body realizes that you need to get some blood down there, it's going to tell you to move. That is something you don't have to think about. It's just something that your brain is basically saying, hey, you got something to deal with here that has to do with just, you know, surviving. And that's where I think it's so amazing, because that part of our brain is something that we oftentimes don't follow, even though it's a very powerful, it's the most, it's the oldest part of our brain, and it connects, I think, more with the gut for sure than the higher level of the brain, which is a much younger part of the brain. The gut has always been there. So it kind of ties in physiologically as well as, you know, from a more sacred or esoteric part as well.
Mhm.
Is that your question?
Go.
Who's first?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
There's a lag. Is it just on my side, or is there a lag with everybody?
It's
I'm
fine
not
on my
feeling
side.
any kind of lag.
I think it's on my side. I hear like, it sounds like you guys are sick. Okay. What is a tantric ritual?
Tantric ritual. Now we're talking. This is so Tantra. Everyone in the West thinks Tantra, and it's also been connected to is just sacred sex or sexual play and stuff, which is, yes, but it's only one branch of Tantra. Think of Tantra like an encyclopedia of knowledge, and tantric sex being just one book or one episode or one element of that. Tantra is what life becomes post-transcendence, post-enlightenment. And there's so many layers of enlightenment and transcendence. There's no such thing as an enlightened being. You can be an enlightening being, but to be enlightened full stop, you can't physically exist in a body. It's just impossible. And even the Buddha knew this. So let's just say you have, it's kind of like if you go to therapy and you have a breakthrough and you feel as if a whole weight got lifted off your shoulders because of that breakthrough. The experience of life you're having because of that new level of awareness is an experience of Tantra. You've accessed a higher level of truth, and now the way you sleep, eat, drink, shit, whatever, sorry for the language, the way you do everything.
You have one F word you can use during the show. We actually forget to tell the guests.
Audience. Yeah,
yeah, you're just in the edits of my book. I had to change so many. Yeah, so that shift of awareness is your tantric experience. And then what happens is you fuel the tantra, and that leads you to break into the next field or the next level of awareness. It keeps growing. So tantric ritual is, the simplest way I can put it is allowing yourself to experience life with this newfound awareness, this newfound knowledge, this new level of truth. Sex being one of them. And in meditation, it's like almost like meditation games, like connecting with energies. I always say when I'm doing a tantric meditation, it feels like I can access this spiritual bar, which everyone in other universes, any other planets, other Earths, other beings on this planet have access to. And we all go visit this bar energetically, and we all learn from each other. And then we gain information and we bring it back down. That's like a tantric ritual example. Or another tantric ritual is swapping. And this sounds so esoteric and so out there. And it's only something that one can experience to truly understand. I'm trying to figure out how to teach it fully. But for example, let's just say you're in this energetic space and you're connecting with this other energy that feels alien to you. It's all about switching and letting that energy enter and experience life through your physical senses, and you experiencing life through their physical senses, whatever being their housing. And it's a way for you to realize that everything is energy, and it's playing in that energy field. It's expanding the energy conscious field so much that you are now traveling through that field. So a tantric ritual, an example of it is, it starts with a massive yoga session because you have to really stretch the body. You are sitting in meditation for a long time. I'm talking a few, hours. And you open the body to transcendence. And what happens is around your body, you create this energetic field. It's like a bubble. And you grow it bigger and bigger. And the bigger you grow it, the better it is. The bigger you can grow it, the further you can travel. It's almost like you're connecting to the energy around you, the ether, the space, the matter that you can't see or feel. The things that fills the space between objects, for example. You're expanding your energy field into that. And as a result, consciousness now has more of a world to play in. It's not just housed in your body now. You are connecting with everything. And the further you expand your field, the further you can travel. And so a tantric ritual would be that, but with more of an intention. For example, let's just say, like a tantric ritual, I would even do a meditation. It'd be like a whole weekend where, and maybe I'll start off at home I'll cook like a big breakfast, big feast for myself and really take care of my body. I will exercise. Then I will go into the woods and meditate. I will go spend time in nature, learn from the knowledge of the land, take that knowledge with me back home. And then I'll start getting dressed up, ready for a good night out. And then I'll do another meditation and I'll pull in a new energy, like an energy that wants to experience life here on earth. Maybe, and we can go into a whole another conversation there on a tangent, but another energy that wants to experience life here on earth. Then I connect with that energy. Then I bring that energy out into the world. I'll go out to a club. I'll connect with friends. I'll eat good food, drink good wine. That's a tantric ritual to really enjoy the fruits of your existence. And it's not complicated. It's just simply allowing yourself to enjoy the life that you've been given, to really bring in, to really honor the life that you have. And not many people do that. We do it all for a purpose. We do it all for a gain. I'm going to go out and meet so-and-so. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this to attain this, this, and this. A tantric ritual is not about that. It's all about experiencing the rawness of the present moment.
I like that.
Well, I never understood that. I always, tied it to the whole sexual thing as opposed to what it really is. And I think that's amazing, because that actually, I can now understand maybe, how when it is tied to the sexual aspect, that you've expanded your consciousness. So it's not just a physical thing. It's way more than that. And that's when you can gain so much more, even insight during the time that you're with somebody, because you've expanded your consciousness beyond the physical state.
And don't get me wrong, the sex is good on Tantra. Because what you're essentially doing, you have two energetic beings having a conversation while the bodies are on autopilot, having this fun thing out here. That's why when there's depictions of tantric sex, it just looks like snakes winding around each other, because it's all automatic. Like the bodies, you're not really in the body. It's like, imagine, for lack of a better term, the inner version of yourself, the God or the spirit or the ghost that exists within you, consciousness, whatever, has moved up. And the partner that you're with, the two energies are up having this conversation. And down here, the bodies are just kind of mingling based on the conversation that's happening up here. It's really interesting. And I would love to study it more and go into it a little bit.
Definitely. I would also like to know more about that. You are on TikTok.
I am. I recently discovered the joy.
I love TikTok.
It's so
I'm so happy to see you on TikTok.
Yeah, definitely. I'm on TikTok most of the time now. I find it's so easy to navigate. It's the first social media that I've actually enjoyed posting to, because it's effortless for me. Because I have all these ideas randomly, and I just like post them whenever they come, as opposed to trying to create this wonderful image on Instagram or trying to thoughtful post on Facebook. And so when TikTok came around, I was like, oh, this is fun. So yes, definitely. Let's connect on there. I'm always sharing all these little tidbits.
Guys, you must please go and follow Terry and like his YouTube page as well. Let me pull that up for you. I've been so slow today. My internet's a bit slow. So if I am a little bit hooky, it's this shitty internet here in South Africa.
It's looking good from this side.
Do not have TikTok so that I can show them your TikTok page, but they must go look for themselves on TikTok and find you. If you can just give them your handle, and then this is your YouTube page.
Yes, I started a YouTube page just before I came back to England. I will revive it at some point, but there's enough on there for people to get a good start, and I'm trying to find out what people really enjoy. And I think I'm a little ahead of where the meditation industry is at right now. I think given with the apps like Headspace and Calm, right now there's a lot of individuals who are immersed in the experience of meditation, where like guided meditations, where the experience is created for you. What I'm working with is a very small market that comes out of that. It was like, well, I've conquered the app, what next? And those are the people that are hard to find, and which is why it's taken a little time to kind of grow it. But it's there for a lifetime now. So I don't have to exist in the world for all this knowledge to be out there. I just hope that one day, like I teach a lot of my programs working with children with ADHD, neurodivergent people, people with autism, for example. Or teaching children who live with autism were incredible, because this is radical truth. That's the most amazing questions. And one of the things that excite me is one day I'm going to teach a class with people who are autistic, and one of them or two of them or three of them is already starting to happen. I'm just going to read the work that I've done and just take it to the next level. And that will be a dream come true.
Funny you say that. Kevin, that always leaves us nice comments and everything. He has got autism. So he always sends us lots of loves, and he makes his own little bracelets and everything. So Kevin is one of our viewers. Kevin, you must really go on the internet and book yourself a free assessment with Terry.
Yeah, let's talk. What I've learned, my skill with meditation, this comes from a lifetime of practice and adapting to all the different experiences that I was having in the world. And so when I teach meditation, I'm not teaching a generic class necessarily. I'm looking at the energy I'm working with. And so when I was teaching a class, it was a class of children. I had no idea that some of the children were neurodivergent. So I was just teaching my regular class, and we were making it fun. We were dancing, creating, laughing, and whatnot. And what I noticed was the amount of different techniques I threw out there. Just like, for example, there was one child who was struggling to keep his hands still. So just to the class, we were like, right, we're going to do this meditation whereby when we breathe, we're going to do this. And just get the kids moving their hands a little bit, because if that's something that's happening, then we can incorporate that into our meditation. And what happens is they have control. And that control can then be manifested, moved into different areas. It's quite difficult to express, but when I'm in the zone and teaching, I love it. It just brings so much joy to me, that knowing that this simple, basic thing that I grew up doing, like, it really is. I think I just teach breathing more than anything. Something
that you do by yourself in any case. Just breathe. Just breathe. But I had a little bit of a meltdown, and my one friend just knew she had to video call me this morning, and when she phoned me, she saw my tears running down my face, and the first thing she says is, just breathe with me. Okay, and she just did her whole, because she's a Reiki healer. She immediately just pulled me back from me going with my mind and just everything. And she just, it's like she felt she needed to phone me, because we usually speak to each other every day, but we couldn't speak to each other for a couple of days. And out of the blue, my phone rings, and it was her, and she immediately started and said, just do the breathing. I know where you are, because she knows what's going on. And the breathing, I don't think people realize how important that just breathing when you are in a situation, if you just start with that, it already makes a huge difference with your situation that you are in immediately.
Yeah, I can write a book on different breath, like 100 different breathing techniques. Like, for example, for anxiety, I might as well throw some out there, because I know people watching may benefit. So breathing, and this I do a lot on TikTok too. So breathing technique for anxiety, for example. If you think of anxiety as the gears in your mind running out of control. So when you breathe in as if you're, so your gears are going like this. This is your anxious mind. The gears are going really fast. So when you breathe, wind it back to slow it down. And then exhale. So the gears are going like this in your mind. You breathe in to wind it back. And then when you got to the back, when you round it all the way up, with control, slow it down. So you're breathing to move the gears in your mind. The visualization with the breath really helps with anxiety, especially with social anxiety. And another thing that I like to talk about with breath, for me, just fit it in, is the reason why meditation is so hard to get across in the West is because a lot of the words you need to use to teach meditation don't exist. Like the word for prana. Prana in Sanskrit is essentially translated as vital principle or life energy. The way I explain it to kids is, think of prana like magic, life magic, and think of breathing as the pump that keeps the magic alive. So whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're focused on, you're pumping that life magic and giving life to that thing. So what you're essentially doing when you get in control of that pump, you're really controlling. So you get control of the pump and you focus your mind on where you want it to go. And so let's say you're thinking about, getting a job or visualizing a job. Visualize that and pump life there. If you're thinking about being scared, guess what you're giving life to? That fear and life energy. So it's like you've got consciousness wherever your focus is. And behind that is life energy, prana, that magic. And so it's basically wherever you're focused on, that's where you're feeding the life energy. And the pump is that controls it and keeps it going. So if you control your breath and refocus your mind, guess where you're feeding life energy now? Breath is the most powerful force that we have. It's even in the Christian stories. Like everyone talks about, do you know how when they say in the Old Testament, God created Adam out of clay? So think of prana as warm clay that you can mold. Objects that don't have prana, like the inanimate objects, like the computer, table, that prana is hardened clay. It's not have the ability to breathe. So it can't change, grow, or evolve without anything else doing that for it. We, as breathing beings, have the ability to mold and change and evolve and grow. And that's where we have that power. So we can create anything we want. We literally are the creators of our lives.
Thank you so much for joining us. And thank you for all the tips on the meditation and everything. Guys, please go on to Terry's website, get his book, go for the free assessment. Knowledge can never be taken away from you. So if somebody gives it to you for free, go take it. Nothing in life's for free. So if you can get that little bit of nugget of knowledge, go for it. Go for it. So Terry, how we end off the show, everybody gets a turn just to give the viewers a last little bit of nugget of goodwill or good words or a push into the right direction or something. So I'll go first and then Brett, and then we'll close off with you.
Okay, and before we get to that, I just want to let everybody know, Jess was so awesome earlier in the show. I just put out in the comment section also how to see Jess's breakthrough show tomorrow. Yes. Just wanted to give one last acknowledgement to Jess for everything that she's done. And, Terry's been amazing. So I really appreciate you being on the show. And now we'll go into our final words.
Hi, guys. So before the show, I do some breathing and I saged and everything. And then I pulled 2 cards. Well, I actually pulled 1 card and 1 card fell out of my empowerment card. So the one that I pulled says, say thanks in advance. And it says, faith gives you the peace to say thanks today for what you are guaranteed to receive tomorrow. But this one was the one that just pushed me over the edge. It says, volumize your vocabulary. And it reads, what you say and how you say it creates a lasting impression on all who hear. Expand your vocabulary and you will increase your impact. And this card, I pulled it before the show, and I always ask, I do not know what we're going to talk about on the show, but I want something that goes with it. And I think this card goes with our conversation that we had before we started interviewing Terry, where we were speaking about parents and words and all that. And this, I'm just going to read it to you because you need no explanation. If you come from a place of love, your body language and your words and everything will be from a place. If you come from a place of fear, you will have a body language that will push people away and that will get a reaction that you are not really looking for. So I just want to read this to you again, and then I'll leave it there. It says, what you say and how you say it creates a lasting impression on all who hear you. Expand your vocabulary and you will increase your impact. Have a nice Thursday, guys.
I think I'll just kind of expand on that. We've talked about a lot of different things today, and I think one of the key things is that, that energy, that those words that we choose, the way that we use them to actually influence us. And with what Terry's been talking about of expanding kind of your consciousness, expanding beyond in order to be able to influence that energy that we have within when we expand beyond, let's make sure that energy that we have generated, that we have control of generating and that we can spread is that one of positivity, of joy, of happiness that only we can create within ourselves. And then we can access that which is around us and draw that energy in as well. But it's the energy that we emit that also attracts the energy that comes within. So I'll turn it over to you, Terry.
Mine I'll keep very straightforward and simple, and bring it down to the root of all life itself. When in doubt, just breathe. Go back to breath every single time. It's literally where our life began, and it's the thing that we use to get through our entire experience of it. There's so much power in your breath. And go back to breath and then decide what comes next. You can listen to the intelligence of your body, and it can guide you wherever you need to go. Everything that you need in life, you have. The knowledge, the direction, the support, you have all of that in abundance. Everything out here is to be experienced. It's for you to be enlightened by. It's for you to explore. But how to navigate through it, that all comes from within. So go back to breath and then think about your next step. And one last little piece before I go is, if you could only breathe one way for the rest of your life, if I said you now have one way of breathing, you can only breathe this way, what rate and pace of that breath, what will it be like? Will it be fast and short paced? Will it be long? Will it be simple and comfortable and in control? Learn your control state of breathing and then build your life around it. Because if you're not breathing that way, something's off. So inhale and exhale through the nose, find your control pace, find a breath that you feel comfortable using for the rest of your life, and build your life around it. Because whenever you find an experience that's gone or takes your breath away, you know how to bring yourself back and reset your course. Thank you.
Well, this has been an amazing day. Really appreciate you, Terry. I can tell that there's already so much more that you have to offer, and hopefully we can bring you back on the show in the future, and we get a chance to go into things maybe in a little bit different direction, a little bit more depth. But you definitely offer a tremendous amount to everybody that's been on the show, as well as I'm sure everybody that you touch through your practice and through your life. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity too.
And if you want to stay behind, for a couple minutes after we go off the air, we can talk a little bit more. But thanks, everybody. Really appreciate everybody being on the show and paying attention to what we were talking about, because sometimes we go in different directions, and I know I can get into details that people are like, what the hell are you talking about? So thank you for making it through that, and have an amazing day.